For more, we can speak to our foreign editor, Philip Turle. Hello to you, Philip, America's CIA director and the head of Israel's Mossad agency in Doha for talks on the pauses, also on hostage release efforts. What's the latest to come out of that?
Right. Well, you're right. And I think we can safely say that negotiations are going on behind the scenes. We don't know exactly what is going on there because they're being kept secret. But there are three kingmakers in this: the Israelis, the Americans, and the Qataris, who are in contact with Hamas. And that is why we've seen this action, this movement over the past 24 hours, first of all, concerning these two hostages behind. They're neither held by Hamas, they're being held by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They are part of a small group of hostages that were also taken. But there is obviously some kind of negotiation going on behind the scenes to get them released. They haven't been so yet. But from what we're being told, when appropriate measures are met, that's what the Islamic Jihad are saying, those hostages will be released. That leads one to believe maybe they're trying to negotiate a prisoner release by Israel, which is something that Israel, of course, has fundamentally refused to do right now. But we have William Burns of the CIA and David Barnea of Mossad, who have been in Doha talking to the authorities there. They are obviously trying to negotiate two things. The first one is the release of hostages, and the second thing is these humanitarian pauses. So let's start with the humanitarian pauses. What has been agreed, this is not a ceasefire. This is not any kind of humanitarian pause, which is what much of the globe has been calling for, and what was the subject of the meeting in Paris yesterday with many delegations from around the world, about 80 delegations, and a pledge of over $1 billion worth of aid for Gaza, but calls again for this humanitarian pause. This is not that. What we're talking about here is a 4-hour pause every day with a 3-hour notice period ahead of time to let people get out of northern Gaza and move southwards by two roads that the Israeli authorities are using for that. And at the same time, they're saying to these people, you can get out of northern Gaza. We will give you the time to do that. We'll also give you time to go out and find food, if you can, from shops that are selling it, if there is any food in those shops and if those shops are open. But it doesn't mean that humanitarian aid is coming into northern Gaza. It's a chance for the population there to go to southern Gaza, where they're supposed to be safer. But even so, we're not sure they're going to be safer there. So that's what is being negotiated at the moment. It appears there is some kind of breakthrough there, and these humanitarian, well, these pauses will start taking place from today onwards.
And so what about reports about possible 3-day pauses?
So that's another issue that is being discussed. And this is something that William Burns, not William Burns, but John Kirby, the White House, the US White House spokesperson, has been talking about. And this is something that is being negotiated by Egyptian officials, the UN, a Western diplomat. They're talking about 3-day pauses. What does that mean? Well, that means that there will be 3 days ceasefire, if you like, not a long-term ceasefire, but a 3-day ceasefire in return for the release of up to 12 hostages. That is still being discussed and still being negotiated. And it appears that 7 of those hostages, well, between 6 and 7, will be American. These are hostages being held by Hamas. We haven't got a breakthrough on that yet, but that's also something that appears to be being discussed right now. So to be absolutely clear, we're no closer to Israel agreeing on a cessation of the bombing raids in the Gaza Strip. Israel has said it will only stop those once all the hostages have been released. The Hamas has said it will only release the hostages once Israel frees all these Palestinian prisoners from jails. So we're no closer on that. But this is a sign that there's a lot of negotiation taking place behind the scenes, and little by little there are some cracks of light that are beginning to show.
All right, Philip, thank you very much. Philip Turle, our foreign editor.